Hi, I'm Dr. Shannon Roberts. I have a PhD in professional counseling, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor serving the Tampa Bay area in the capacity of marriages and families and helping them with their emotional well-being and spiritual renewal in the capacity of a professional counseling setting at Christian Counseling of South Tampa. I'm pleased to be with you guys tonight during this talk, and I've been tasked with talking to you about the romance and passion in your relationship. This is usually the very last one that we do, especially in the counseling setting, because we want to make sure that all the other things have been repaired. And the overflow of all that work usually comes in the fashion of this sexual renewal piece of the relationship. It's usually the first to go, however, when there have been significant issues in the relationship. I have worked with couples for a number of years, almost 30. And one that sticks out to me is a couple that came to me, well, first she started, because sometimes that's what happens. One person in the relationship is ready to start addressing the issues maybe before the other one is ready to come along. And so she was ready first. And as we were working together, we realized that when the chapter of the two children were born, this couple entered into that very busy season, as most of you probably have already transitioned into. He was building his career. She was overwhelmed at home. They were not seeing eye to eye on co-parenting issues. And that cycle began. And for what now I understand became 25 years of them not being able to come together sexually. He sleeping on the couch, her in the bed. And so we started from there. And it took over amount of time being able to address the relationship wounds, the history, the trauma, the negative sentiments override, to a place where he finally was back in and willing to work as well. And working through all those to get to a place of breaking that ice of intimacy again. And if it's been a while, it is kind of breaking the ice again. It is a place where you have to come to a place of warmth and safety over time before we even go into that place and open that place up again. So if you're here and those anything of that nature sounds very familiar, please have hope you can get there. When we talk to couples about the sexual intimacy, we begin to understand that for men, having that physical connection leads them into a place of emotional vulnerability. But for women, it's quite the opposite. Having an emotional, vulnerable connection allows them the strength and the willingness to move into a place of physical vulnerability. And if we understand that that is the ebb and flow of God's design of sexual union, then we're able to enter in with a giving attitude, not necessarily a getting attitude. And so as you see, sexual renewal really has to have a mental capacity to it. A lot of times, the world has a different message. Sex is about self-gratification, or sex is about getting something out of it instead of necessarily showing up with the idea of wanting to give in a capacity of loving well to our partner. And so if those other things don't come in before that, that would be a hard place for couples to show up in that room if they aren't feeling safe and secure. But knowing that, I know specifically in dealing with Christian women that for whatever reason, messages might not have been sent through teaching or church that they are sexual beings. And so we've heard, through the capacity of growing up and developing in adolescence or early adulthood, that we're supposed to be pure. And that means that we're supposed to abstain and not to show up as sexual beings. And so a lot of times women will show up in the room with a very negative concept of what they should be in that sexual relationship, or a negative concept about sex itself. And so working through those negative imaging, negative self-messages, or even that God will embrace her as a sexual being because he made it and it was his design. Replacing those negative self-statements with positive sometimes is a process. And understanding what that looks like in your own, brain is one of the things that I would want you to begin talking through and identifying and being honest with. There's other things that interrupt the sexual reunion too. There could be some physical things that are going on that might need to be addressed hormonally, or in the body image distortion that you've had issues with even outside of the relationship. Eating disorders and natures of that kind of thing. Sexual trauma. And of course, the layer, if there's been a betrayal trauma in the relationship as well, knowing and having those stories and pictures in your head. So this is a very tender, fragile navigation piece for couples that have had troubles in this area. If that's the case, I would want you to try to get some professional help, navigate those rather than go it on your own. There are people out there that understand or are comfortable talking about this in the safety confines of a professional setting, so please don't hesitate to reach out. So in general, when we are trying to get to this place of renewal, and couples renew with several different things. They can renew with their worship or their prayer or their service or their recreational fun. This is just one part, but a very, very special part, because this is the design that God gave uniquely to you in your marriage that separates it from any other relationship on the planet. And so taking it seriously and making it intentional and making it important is a significant piece of your renewal system in a marriage. For women, for the most part, they'll say, well, he really doesn't necessarily make me feel warm and safe, and so then he just wants me to show up in the room. And for men, well, she's so rejecting and unaccepting that, it's really hard for me to show up and be warm towards her. And so that's the push-pull, right? Because everything that God designs, the enemy wants to thwart. And so having the ability to give in the area for men emotionally to the wife, and for women, the willingness to give physically in this area too. So women are much more like crock pots, and men are much more like microwaves. And so a man can be ready on the spot, and a woman takes a little bit of slow warm. And so I tell women that the biggest sex organ that they have is really their mind. And so if they kind of start the process, carving in the time and space to think of their husband in this capacity, it can become a part of the routine, whether you're brushing your teeth, prepping for the evening or the night. Begin warming up the crock pot, thinking about your husband in the capacity of sexuality, wanting to show up in ways that will be pleasing to him, being able to paint the picture in your mind of his face when he is at a place where you are pleasing him. And that would be something that prepares you so that when you get to that room or you get to that place where you're going to be together, you're already kind of warming the crock pot up. And for men, knowing that that crock pot needs to be warmed up means that you go in slow and you don't skip the foreplay. You be flirtatious and fun-loving and allowing the patience and the time for her to set the pace too. And for women, keeping yourself in the room intentionally, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, so that mind doesn't go on, oh, the checklist I've got to get to before I go to bed, or, oh, I forgot to do this today. That we keep ourselves intentionally in the present moment, grounding ourselves with our senses. So sight, Keep the lights low or dimmed, but not off. Sound, engage in conversation. They call it pillow talk for a reason. Sight, also eye contact when necessary so that you can keep each other engaged. Sight, sound, smell. If you need to make it an inviting environment with candles, that kind of helps us keep us grounded in the room as well. Sight, sound, smell, taste, well, I'm going to leave that to you. And then touch. Touch, meaning you pay attention to how it feels with each other in each other's arms, the affection, the touch. You pay attention to their hand on your skin. And that keeps you grounded in the room. And when we are in that present moment, there is a point in time that we cross over into not having any worry about anything else that's going on, except right there, being able to attend and attune to your partner in that moment. And then that's when it begins to cross over into that intimacy building and that ability to feel safe and secure and offer ourselves to our partners. A lot of times women will say, gosh, we just don't have time in our day. But if you really think about it, really, how long from beginning to end? Typically 15, 20 minutes. Well, that's not even a 30-minute show. So giving the intentionality to our partner for those few minutes will bring much more time in your marriage where we are more connected, more satisfied, less chronicity in our irritability cycles, and it will pay off with a lot of dividends. So going a little bit deeper into this push-pull, give versus getting concept, couples do get gridlocked. They get to the place where they're not willing to give until they get. And so it's a power struggle, and no one wants to take the first move of giving. And so they're gridlocked. And you might find that that's where you might be. If you don't have the capacity to sit down and talk through, I would want you to consider help. But if you are in this gridlock, what I would encourage you to do, not maybe times when we're actually trying to be sexually intimate, but on a neutral time. Sit down and go in curiously. Ask your partner. If you're a man, go in and ask, what would make you feel more emotionally warm towards me? What can I do that would help you in this arena? And listen with the motivation of understanding. Don't say anything in return. Just be open to receiving what their answers are. And for you women, if you could, go in curiously, what would be more pleasing to you? What would you need from me in order, in this area, for us to both meet together where we're both willing to give in the arenas at the same time so that one doesn't feel more taxed than the other one? And go in with a true desire to want to understand your man. There's really nothing wrong with your man wanting you. In fact, that is a really big compliment. You wouldn't want him to go anywhere else. And so wanting you is one of the things that he's giving to you as esteeming and cherishing you. So don't see it as a turnoff, but a gratefulness. Go in and get your answers, and don't say anything in return, just take it in and see if that can begin to unstick that gridlock that you have. And if you can't, obviously, we would want you to seek out help. It's that important. And back to that couple that I was talking to you about earlier, that 25-year history of no sexual connection. Let me tell you, they went through some very hard times. When we do not renew in the area of sexual intimacy and keep that romance and passion warm in the relationship, it does open you up for the possibilities of temptation, for the enemy to come in, whether that's through pornography, which is a very big deal in our world today, especially in marital relationships and the destructions of them. but it also opens you up for the possibilities of emotional affairs, physical affairs. We become weak in this area, and the enemy is strong, and they will find the weak link. So keeping this part of your relationship strong and healthy prevents the possibility of the enemy coming in and wanting to destroy. I want to encourage you that if this isn't something that you've gotten right, to really begin the process of understanding where it goes off. A lot of women don't even know what is pleasing to them in their bodies. They're so disconnected from their bodies. And so the men will come in and say, how can I make you feel safe and secure in this area? And they really might not even have the answer for that. But that's okay too, because then you both are on the same team and you can go with the mindset of, okay, well, let's just explore and understand together. And so that's when you really do have to have that really open communication in the bedroom, keeping the conversation flowing. And if this is all very uncomfortable for you, that's okay, because over time, when you begin talking it through, it becomes easier. And for women, you will see that there will be a part of this that you can embrace as enjoyable and pleasurable, and that's okay too. And again, let me just encourage you, like this couple, you can get back there. If you need help, reach out for help. There are professionals that can help you. And I promise you, those 25 years have gone away for this couple. They're enjoying their empty nest. And yes, they're sleeping in the same bed. So you can have that happen as well. God bless you.